Hello everyone, Izzy here and welcome back to my channel. Today is Valentine's Day, the day for some of us to celebrate romantic love if we have it, or a day to celebrate chocolate if we don't. Not that I'd know anything about that second one, oh no. I had no idea what to do for Valentine's Day, so I thought I'd try to take somewhat of a historical angle, and that kinda got derailed. But what you're seeing here now is I'm whipping up some thumbnails, and I ended up going with the last one I drew. Just kind of spoiler alert here. But the idea that spawned all of this was a Wikipedia article on Valentine's Day. I did very in-depth research to find this one article. Essentially, Valentine's Day, quote-unquote, started because of Saint Valentine, but there were multiple of those, and they don't actually know if anything specific that he did was true? Well, okay, I'll explain. So, there was a jailer's daughter who was blind, and they say that Saint Valentine cured her blindness, and he died as a martyr. That is the extent of the Valentine story, which doesn't sound very romantic, but that's because later on you add on a whole lot of legend. First, it goes that he wrote the jailer's daughter a letter afterwards and signed it, "Your Valentine," which obviously we have Valentine's cards, signed "Your Valentine," so that's where that part would have came from. But then it kind of veers off into Strangeville because it says that he married Christian soldiers who had been forbidden to marry by their captain, which isn't supported by literally anything, but it is an idea that I played off of because it's a lot more fun than drawing some gal in jail who was at one point blind. So that was the more fun concept. And there was a lot of miscellaneous facts about Valentine's Day that wound up in the final product or in these thumbnails, so I'm just gonna kind of rapid fire here. Valentine's Day is typically associated with birds, apparently. I didn't know that. Well, at least it was. In fact, I think, if I remember right from that article, the first Valentine's Day poem was about birds, because Valentine's Day was recorded to be at the start of spring, which I wish someone would tell the weather here that it's spring, because it's not very spring-like here. It's in the negatives. But if it were, and Valentine's Day were in spring, the birds would be having a good time, finding their loves. So that is where the birds in a few of these come from, why bird-looking happens. It was said that Saint Valentine cut out parchments shaped like hearts, perhaps for these weddings that he officiated, definitely. And so that's where the hearts became associated with Valentine's Day. The Victorian style card in the bottom left is supposed to say Victorian, and there were actually cards that were made of lace. I think it comes quite a bit after Valentine's lifetime, but it still has that general idea where it's like it's old-timey, and I liked that, but I didn't end up going with it yet. I might for Monday's video. We'll see. And this one is, Julia was the jailer's daughter's name, I think, and it said that she planted a a pink blossomed almond tree by St. Valentine's grave. And that's why, as morbid as it is, I decided to include a cherry tree. And also, this one makes some of my other thumbnails a bit morbid too. Apparently, St. Valentine's skull was discovered with a flower crown. Which is why I include a flower crown in some of the thumbnails. I'm not not trying to bring a ton of death into Valentine's Day. I'm just trying to wedge in as many factoids as I can. The thumbnail that I ultimately ended up drawing is a couple carving some hearts into a tree, which seems really basic, but I was inspired by one of the pictures on the Wikipedia page. It was a more modern interpretation, not modern, but it was a picture taken in Canada in 1944, and it was pretty much this exact same situation, the pose, even the same hearts. And I just thought, what a charming picture, and I wanted to recreate it. But then I thought, I'm not going to just recreate it in my style exactly as is. So then I brought in that knight and his princess, I guess, idea. And that's about all the interesting stuff to say about the concept. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to rattle off some more Valentine's facts, which I don't have a ton of. But, but here's the last one, I guess. Apparently, and you can tell me if this is right if you happen to be from Latin America, but according to the Wikipedia page, it said that in Latin America, Valentine's Day is celebrated as a show of friendship, not a show of romantic love. And as someone who totally, definitely has a significant other, it's kind of nice to see that interpretation. Makes you feel a little bit more like you can engage in the holiday. So I'm here for that one. And there's the end of the Valentine's facts. Oh boy. And now to move on to some stuff about the drawing. I disliked this at the start. I forgot to record a big chunk of it, so you'll see it just start at the line art, and it's great, just great. And I was not happy with it. When I was all the way done with the line art, I thought, look, I need to finish this. It's got to be done today, so what can I do? And so I decided to go really painterly with the background. I thought, if I just kind of whip in that tree, whip in the flowers, make it look kind of nice in the background, maybe I'll have some more incentive to finish these characters. And I think that worked, because as soon as I was done with the background, I had an idea of what colors to make the characters, because I wanted it to all kind of be homogeneous. So the characters are pretty obviously similar colors to the tree, and that was very much intentional. I tried to keep everything in the reds except for the background and some shading, which were in the blues. And I think that the watercolory sort of style worked, especially because, to me at least, I felt like I could be looser with the whole rest of the image. I didn't feel like I was creating a fully finished illustration, which I just wasn't a huge fan of the thought of making a fully finished illustration of this, because I really wasn't vibing with it. I like how it came out in the end, but I'm just gonna tell you, the process of coming up with the idea and then drawing it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. I just did not have plans here. I'm trying to think of literally anything else interesting I can say. So I had the reference picture of the tree up, and I realized it'd be kind of tricky to draw that tree. I didn't understand how the branches worked, and so I drew it a lot more like a cherry blossom tree, I guess. But I tried at least to add in some branches at the very end of drawing the tree and add some bark texture and things like that could possibly differentiate it from a cherry tree. I hope that worked. And then we've still got a while to go. We've still got too long to go for me to talk about what I want to talk about. The armor was the only color other than the white that I didn't grab from somewhere in the image or from my... Oh, okay, the armor on the character. I was actually, believe it or not, that simple armor was actually referenced to something. I was looking at medieval armor, and specifically 13th century armor, because I read somewhere, someplace, that that's when St. Valentine was alive, and I was like, okay, we're going with that. So I looked up 13th century armor, And I just grabbed the clearest reference picture that I could find, and I think it was a recreation, so it may not have been the most accurate thing in the world, but I tried. And it was pretty convenient actually, because the clothes that the armor showed wearing, wow, that was a sentence. They were red, and so I was like, well, it's not gonna be too different to make it a maroon, and so that's what I went for to make the color scheme work. And similarly, I tried to make the woman's clothes somewhat historically accurate. The hair coming out of both is not very accurate. I think in both the armor and with that headpiece, the point is to cover all your hair. But that just wasn't fun to draw. I love hair. I love drawing hair. And so I threw it in anyway. And in the end, I think the inclusion of the hair makes the color scheme more cohesive, because I could grab the yellow points from his armor and make her hair a yellow blonde, and it just kind of ties the two together, and I like how that came out. So, as odd as the design choice may seem, I actually was trying to base it on history. And speaking of basing the design for the image on stuff, I drew him holding his helmet, the knight, but I forgot to draw that helmet in until after I'd started coloring. So there's a point, and I think it's past this by now, but I drew in some colors and then was like, oh, he's not holding anything. Let me fix that real quick. And so the layers in this were also kind of a mess. I just wasn't as prepared as I ought to be. I was cutting it kind of down to the wire with this video, so... Oh, Tibbles, it's okay. My kitty's meowing. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about the, really kind of choppy audio recording and the video not being super polished and all that. But to be honest, I was finishing this so last minute because I just had to come up with an idea for Valentine's Day. Because I'm not gonna not do Valentine's Day. It's a fun day, even if, you know, the Valentine part isn't here. I should be working on some sky and some grass by now, and that was just kind of therapeutic, throwing some colors on. I knew that I wanted sky, and so I'd made the background a light blue really early on so that I could visualize it, but I realized that they just didn't feel grounded without any sort of grass, and so I just used a textured brush and stuck in grass colors. I mean, it's no more complicated than that. It was some tips for grass. If you're drawing grass, I recommend using a real desaturated green. Like, I tend to gravitate towards very bright colors, and I've had to learn in recent history that grass especially looks good if you keep it on the bluer side of the spectrum and you keep it fairly desaturated, and then some pops of a brighter yellow. And that just, to me at least, even with a very simple sort of grass, you can tell it's grass. It doesn't just look like a blob of green in the background. At least I hope it doesn't. And similarly, that textured brush could create the illusion of clouds. Then I could just add highlights to everything and add my signature. And then at the last minute, I decided to throw a frame on the picture. I don't know why I decided to do this, but I like how it looked. I guess I just thought, I always make a picture, and I wanted to vary it a bit. So what I did was, at first I was trying to make it go right into the corner, but I realized later that that wasn't working too much because it was going to flat out the curve of the frame. So I just made a wavy line using the snap tool that Metabang Paint Pro has. I just made a swooshy line. And I thought it'll just work as a very simple frame. And I colored it with the same cherry wood. I keep saying cherry wood, but it's almond wood, I guess. The same almond wood texture, color, as the tree. And I thought it'd just kind of tie in that darker spot as well as literally frame the entire picture. And I also added the reflection of the frame and the shading from the frame, And I like how that tied the rest of the image together, and it really was that last piece that made me actually like this. So yeah, that was this image. I'm sorry again about the rough sort of video, but I hope you liked the final product, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and joyful rest of your Valentine's Day, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye bye.